Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into something we all feel but rarely talk about, the invisible architecture of human fear. We're going to decode that hidden psychological software running right in the background of our daily lives. I'm talking about our profound and honestly often paralyzing fear of judgment. Picture this. You're walking into a room full of people, and nothing unusual happens. Right? Nobody points at you, nobody laughs, honestly, nobody even seems to notice you at all. And yet, almost instantly, your mind just starts spinning a story. The room hasn't actually changed, but inside your head, the atmosphere suddenly gets incredibly heavy.
Your inner monologue hits the gas pedal. Wait, are they looking at me? Do I look confident enough? You start scanning the room, totally projecting these thoughts onto strangers who are literally just sipping their coffee or scrolling on their phones. But suddenly, there's this silent jury of imagined opinions taking their seats right inside your mind.
Am I dressed appropriately for this? Notice how your behavior actually starts changing in real time. You shift in your seat a little, you fix your posture, you rehearse exactly what you're going to say in your head before you even open your mouth. Not because reality actually shifted, mind you, but just because the mere possibility of judgment entered the chat.
So you finally speak up, and instantly, literally the second the words leave your mouth, your brain goes, ugh, did that sound stupid? Should I have phrased that differently? This right here, this is the arrival of what psychologists call the invisible audience. It's an audience that doesn't actually exist, yet it somehow dictates our actions as if our lives depend on it.
Most animals fear predators. Humans fear opinions. It's a pretty profound, maybe even slightly unsettling realization, isn't it? I mean, we live in this modern age where individuality is supposedly celebrated. Yet millions of us organize our entire existence around one single question: what will other people think? A careless comment can absolutely wreck a Tuesday. A total stranger's criticism can genuinely feel more painful than actual physical discomfort.
Which brings us to our first section, ancient software, and when rejection literally meant death. Because to truly grasp this paralyzing fear, we actually have to rewind the clock. This isn't just some modern social anxiety. No, this is ancient survival software running in the background.
Think about it. For the vast majority of human history, we definitely weren't the strongest, fastest, or most dangerous animals out there. Our survival depended 100% on tribal cooperation. If the group accepted you, you had food, safety, and protection. But if you were rejected, that meant exile. And back then, exile meant almost certain death. So over thousands of generations, the human brain adapted. Social acceptance became a biological necessity. Our brains literally hardwired the fear of judgment as a fundamental survival mechanism. So that fear you feel, it's not some irrational weakness, it's deeply intelligent design meant to keep you alive.
But look at the incredible contrast between our ancient programming and our modern reality. The environment has completely transformed, but our biological alarm system, it hasn't changed a bit. Being left on read on social media is not tribal exile. Stumbling over your words in a Zoom meeting does not banish you to the wilderness. Yet your nervous system flares up exactly as if a saber-toothed tiger just walked into the room. We are basically running caveman software in a high-speed digital world. Moving on to Section 2, the spotlight, and this digital age of constant evaluation. This really zeroes in on a phenomenon totally unique to humans: self-awareness. We don't just go through life, we actively watch ourselves going through life. And in today's hyper-connected world, that psychological baggage is heavier than it's ever been.
Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the spotlight effect. It's this mental quirk where we constantly, and I mean constantly, overestimate just how much attention other people are paying to us. We just assume our flaws are glaring like neon signs and our awkward moments will be remembered forever. But the grand, kind of tragic irony here is that millions of us are standing right under this magnified mental spotlight, absolutely terrified of observers who are, in reality, just stressing out about their very own spotlights.
And then, of course, we had to go and digitize the whole thing. Never before in the history of our species have we been exposed to this much potential judgment. Social media took our private lives and turned them into this relentless 24/7 public performance. Likes, views, comments, shares. To our ancient brains, these aren't just little numbers on a screen. They act as intense emotional signals of social acceptance. They become literal metrics of self-worth. So now the fear of judgment isn't just an occasional thing, it is this accelerating, constant background hum woven into literally everything we do.
But when our sense of self becomes entirely hooked on that external validation, something really tragic happens. Authenticity just starts to vanish.
We pick careers to get admiration, we buy stuff to signal status, and we actively hide who we really are just to make sure we fit in. Genuine human desire gets slowly, quietly suffocated by the crushing weight of social expectation.
Let's pause here for Section 3, the core wound and identity under threat. Let's slow down for just a second. If we want to truly understand why this fear is so paralyzing, we have to look past the surface anxiety. We have to look at the darker emotion underneath it all. We have to talk about shame.
The absolutely crucial point here is the massive difference between guilt and shame. See, guilt focuses on the action. Hey, I made a mistake, and you can fix a mistake, right? But shame zeroes in on the identity. I am the mistake. As humans, we can actually handle failure. We can handle totally botching a project. But shame actively threatens our fundamental identity and our right to belong to the tribe. And that right there is exactly why public embarrassment feels so viscerally agonizing to us.
So you see, the fear is rarely about the mistake itself. It's about what that mistake might mean about who we are. And once shame enters the picture, we start dodging vulnerability altogether. It creates this quiet, almost invisible tragedy. Just think about all the unstarted conversations, the dreams left unpursued, the brilliant ideas never spoken out loud, all buried simply because we were terrified of what a failure might signal to the rest of the group.
Which brings us to Section 4, the plot twist, featuring the inner judge. This is where the story takes a really fascinating, kind of dark turn inward, because if we're always performing for this grand audience, we have to stop and ask, who exactly is the villain in this story? It's a deeply unsettling progression when you break it down. At first, society really does judge the individual. Our parents, teachers, the kids at school, they hand out all this external feedback. But over time, we internalize those critics. Eventually, those outside voices morph into our own inner voice. The judge literally moves inside the house. And what that means is, chasing external approval is a game we can never, ever win. Because the harshest critic of all is living right there with us, judging us even when we're completely alone in an empty room.
Escaping society is possible. Escaping oneself is much harder. Think about that for a second. That audience you are so desperately afraid of stepping in front of, they don't actually live out there in the real world. They live permanently, rent-free, inside your own mind.
All right, let's step back from the edge of that thought for Section 5, the shared stage, and how we navigate this uncertainty together. Because honestly, finally recognizing this internal trap offers us a massive, liberating sigh of relief. Why? Because we are absolutely not alone in this.
I mean, who is actually afraid of judgment? The incredibly confident person leading the meeting? The wildly successful expert? The mega popular celebrity? That total stranger walking past you on the sidewalk? And, well, you. Every single one of us is walking around carrying these invisible backpacks of insecurity. The world isn't split up into harsh judges and terrified victims. It's actually just filled with vulnerable human beings, all trying to navigate the exact same ancient uncertainty. We're trapped, sure, but not by actual, malicious judgment from other people. We're trapped by the anticipation of criticism, by this phantom, invisible audience that isn't even paying attention to us in the first place. The prison we live in was entirely built by the stories we keep telling ourselves about what others might be thinking.
And this leads to perhaps the ultimate, mind-bending, philosophical truth of our modern social lives. That audience you fear so much, they are standing right there on their very own stage, completely terrified of another audience. Everyone is just hoping not to be judged, way too busy stressing over their own invisible critics to ever properly scrutinize yours.
The spotlight is a totally fabricated illusion. The jury is entirely in your head. And everyone out there is really just a reflection of your own vulnerability. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. What would you actually do differently today if you truly realized that the jury is just as frightened as you are?